Bases dropped on, wow, look at that. That's what happens when you go out early and you walk a dog. Don't put a hat on your head. Maybe I should put a hat on my head today. Look at that. That's just out of control. Maybe I should just smash a headset on it or something. Wow, that is just nasty. Wow, look at that. Hang on. Tell you what. No, well, John's not live from the brew house, but let me see. Can we change extra invite? No, that ain't it. It's like you get this new system and you're trying to figure out no, that's not what I'm looking for. Hang on. Settings. Okay. See, you get this new grid and you're trying to figure out your settings. Morning, Alex. And profile. I am not live from the Brewhouse Cafe. I am trying to stay as dry as humanly possible. Wow, that hair is out of control. If there was any place where I could, I don't know. Forget it. I'm going to wear a hat. I'm being really self-conscious. I apologize. I'm being self-conscious. I'm getting a hat. So let me see if I can do this at the same time that we're talking. All right. So busy show as always. And it's going to be a lot of college soccer today. And we will break down a lot of what's going on in the in the NAIA and the NCAA. There's plenty to get into on both the men's and women's sides. And Kacey D will be joining us in just a little bit, and she'll be breaking down everything this morning. And we'll go over one of the wildest shootouts that you've seen, at least in the early rounds. And this is where we put on the hat. So we'll go over one of the wilder shootouts that we had in the previous round of the NCAA tournament. We'll get into that. We will also get into the NAIA starting off in hour number 2. You win and you come back. You win and you come back. So Steve DeCou, being a ritualistic sort, he is going to come back and be a part of the show at 10 o'clock. They had a big win yesterday over the Phoenix of Cumberland, Tennessee, Lebanon, Tennessee. And so they advance. They got a couple days. We'll walk through the match yesterday, and we'll break everything down with Steve DeCou from Georgia Gwinnett, hour number 2. So hour number 1, it's going to be men's and women's soccer on the college side in the NCAA tournament. Then we've also got to get into the women's national team. Bart Keeler joined us yesterday, and you saw Bart was live in South Florida. So we'll kind of go over what happened in the match that he was at the Erector set. 2-0 win for the United States. And we'll go over the numbers. We have some sound from Kat Macaria. We've got your highlights there as well. So craziness in the NCAA tournament, men's and women's. Kacey D should be joining us in about 7 minutes. Knowing Kacey, she'll be joining us in about 5. So we'll get into that. We'll get into NCAA, NAIA, men's, women's, hour number 1. Steve DeCou joining us at 10 o'clock. Georgia Gwinnett will discuss the NAIA tournament. We'll get into that too. We've got some news out of England involving our old friend John Texter. We've got to get into that. And it was more of an interview than anything else. And he said the quiet part out loud. So we'll get into that. Mornings on Sheffield Wednesday and their latest. And we're efforting folks from the other side of the ocean to discuss it as we go forward. And that'll be hour number 2. So news in hour number 2. Steve DeCou, NAIA, hour number 2. NCAA and MLS in hour number 1, plus some U.S. women's national team in there somewhere. So that's today. So whatever else is on your mind, that's what we've got. And, yeah, I had to wear a hat. And, by the way, this is our friends from Long County High School in Ludowici, Georgia, Ludowici, Ludowici, the Blue Tide of Ludowici. And Mike Feaster, their head coach, very, very cool that he sent the gear along to show what's going on there. Thanks to everybody who was with us last night for soccer over there at the Brew House. And it was a great run of everything going on with all the shenanigans going on with all the leagues and getting you ready for the tournament that is coming starting really Friday when we get all the matchups squared away. And we'll find out what it's going to look like. I'll be at the Brew House. I'll be at Benchwarmers in downtown Decatur to do the show Friday morning. And it'll be kind of a soft launch. They're not going to be open. It'll be kind of open. I don't know what kind of extent they'll be serving anything, but they're going to open at 11:30, just in time for the draw. Noon, 12:30, somewhere in there. Should be a 2-hour draw, but there'll be pomp and circumstance and dancing and music and all that kind of stuff. The way it's going to work on Friday is this: morning show will be the morning show from Benchwarmers in Decatur. Jason and Maddie are going to be at the brew house. They're going to join like about 10 o'clock. Our guests that we have normally, we'll drift them in, but it'll be more of a conversation about the World's Game and the World Cup and all that kind of stuff. See if we can find out if our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring can join us in the 9:30. Decatur Watch Fest will be joining us at 9:05 to kind of explain the year and what it's going to be like in Decatur, getting ready for the next 7 months, and then what it's going to be like in that month sprint that's going to be there for the World Cup. So that'll be at 9:05, 9:30 Beyond Goals Mentoring. 10 o'clock, Jason and Maddie should be joining, and then we'll get we'll get our friend Torres to join us as well about 10:30, and he'll break down everything from the CONMEBOL perspective when it comes to the teams heading into the tournament. Then 11 o'clock, we'll hand it over. We'll join once again Maddie and Jason at the brew house, expecting a big honking crowd. So if you're going, go early. If you need a note from us, we probably could get something on letterhead for you. So we'll see what it looks like there. And so then Maddie and Jason will take over at 11. They'll go for a little bit. The draw will happen. They'll come back after the draw. We're efforting some special guests, and we'll lay it all out for you there. So Friday's going to be a big day. After the show is over at Brew House in the afternoon, there's going to be an Atlanta Soccer tonight with Jason over at 92.9 The Game on the Odyssey app. Then after that, they're going to head up to NoFo Gainesville, and they are going to have a trivia night, big night, and that'll be kind of putting a bow on everything. Then Saturday at noon, we'll know the schedule in addition to the groups, and then the schedule comes out at noon. MLS Cup at 2:30. We're going to be doing something we don't quite know yet what. Jason might be just loopy and wacky, and we'll find out what it's going to look like. But so Friday, big honking day. Saturday, big honking day. And so we'll let you know what's going on across the board. Morning, Dell, and morning, Alex. So that's the rundown of Friday and Saturday. So Friday, really busy. We're on the road. Saturday, busy, but we're going to be at home. But we'll be discussing everything going on with groups and matchups and all that kind of stuff. And you can fit in your travel schedule and find out where you are going at that point. So we'll see what's up there. And that'll be Saturday. Friday, big day. You find out your teams. You find out, except for the 6 that haven't qualified yet, those placeholders and when that'll be. Thursday is the MLS free-for-all, getting you ready for MLS Cup. We get to tap into our friends at Apple TV Plus, and we find out what kind of chaos they have on their minds. We open up the MLS High Yearbook for this year, find out Miss Congeniality, most likely to succeed, who was the best subby, who got the swirly that they deserved, in the bathroom out back. Who was smoking out back all year and got into trouble, who's on suspension, who's on detention, those kinds of things. That'll be Thursday. We'll focus on MLS Cup. Nico Moreno will join us because of that on Wednesday at 10:30. See if our buddy Dylan Butler can join us at 10. And Tyler Pilgrim, the busiest man with scarves and spikes, joining us at 9:15. So that's tomorrow. So I kind of worked our way back to today with everything that's going to be happening during the week when it comes to anything and everything going on in the world of soccer. Okay, so it looks like Kacey can help walk us through Hofstra and Furman, and that's going to be the game that specifically we have the highlights for. KCD drops in. We will wholly admit that we will be discussing Hofstra and Furman. We do have the end of the PK shootout, so we got that on tape to be driven crazy by the call of our Matty Cruz and Faxon Childress. So that is the rundown of anything and everything going on this planet. And so the biggest question that we have is, where's Owen? We have to figure out where Owen is this morning. All right, we'll bring in KCD and find out. KCD, where you be?
Oh, I'm at home. I've been home for a month. I'm hanging out.
And you've already got the poinsettias up. You've got
a little Christmas tree up, which is good. Little decorations.
So you got the little Christmas tree. Do you have a larger Christmas tree outside of the camera range?
I do. I have one coming. I have a new one that I got. So I'm waiting for that to arrive.
Okay. And all right, see now you're seeing. All right, now I have to ask this. Yeah, you've already got your mug out. You're ready to go. So you're
An
married.
NCAA Christmas mug.
Hey, look, nothing wrong with that. All right. So when it comes to decorating the Casa de KCD,
Yes.
are you an individual that works 2 or 3 holidays ahead, or do you wait for the calendar to turn before you go to the next one? Because there were folks that were like in July setting up stuff for Christmas.
No, to each their own, but I am definitely a by the calendar person. Like, I don't even listen to Christmas music till after Thanksgiving. Like, when it's on the radio, I turn
Okay.
it off.
Okay.
So I go through each holiday. I do like fall, Thanksgiving, then Christmas. So I'm definitely by the calendar.
Okay, because yeah, the boss here is also by the calendar where you do Halloween, nothing happening with November until you get to November. Halloween goes away, then you start plotting for Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is over once you've returned from family and in-laws. Then you try and find a day and a half to sit there and tear everything down from Thanksgiving. You start putting up your Christmas stuff. And that's how we are here. I mean, obviously the office doesn't change except for maybe some bunting that will surprise me at some point. I don't know, but I wanted to find out if you were, in fact, a by the calendar person, or if you were one of those that sets up the grid and it's like, yep, okay, August 1st, let's get ready for Christmas. No, you're by the book. Okay.
I am.
Just checking. Okay. Let's see. So where do you want to start? We can start with MLS Cup. We're down to 2. We got to go through the brackets when it comes to men's and women's in the NCAA. And we do have the final 2 minutes of the PK shootout with Hofstra and Furman as well. Where do you want to go?
We can start with MLS. That's fine, and then go to college for the majority of the time.
All right. So MLS Cup, and it is Vancouver and Messi and friends. Vancouver took care of business. BID''NESS, as they say here in the South, and took care of business. Put San Diego away. Great season for Mikey Veras. They made it to the last game of the Western Conference. You see now she's hydrating and she's drinking out of the Chick-fil-A mug. So she's got
I'm doing both.
she's got the hot and the cold. She's like the McDLT of preparation for the voice this morning. I see how this works. So Western Conference, Vancouver put up 3 early and it was over. And when you look at Messi and friends, it ain't just Messi. He didn't take a shot on target. We'll start with the Western Conference and go Vancouver and San Diego. When you look at that one and you look at what Vancouver has been able to do with adding Thomas Mueller, what has it been like to see Vancouver this year?
I think there's 2 things that I wanted to kind of address with Vancouver. The first one is the fact that they learned from the LAFC game. They gave up that 2-goal lead with LAFC, and easier said than done to keep a 2-goal lead on Son. Like, we know that and what he can do and what he did in that game. But incredibly impressive to continue to produce goals at the rate that they are. We talk about Inter Miami and their goal production, but honestly, the goal production from Vancouver is equally impressive. Now they were able to secure a lead, be able to see it out, which I thought was pretty impressive. And I just think that Vancouver has a little bit of an edge to them. Sebastian Berhalter is an emotional leader in midfield. You can talk about his game all day long, but you need players that have that extra grit, that extra energy and passion that you see. And I think he's a big part of that alongside, obviously, the rest of the players that they have.
Yeah, no doubt. And to see a Berhalter in the PK shootout in Vancouver, as we'll go back even around where you survive 11v9 basically when you're in the semifinal against LA. So you end up with Tristan Blackman getting the second yellow, which means he wasn't available last time out. So you're at 11v10. Then you end up with an injury, and Bilal Halbouni is now going to be out 5 to 7 weeks with a bone contusion. So you miss him late in overtime. You're at 11v9, second extra period. You're at 11v9. You survive that chaos and get a PKs. And we mentioned Sebastian Berhalter in front of that 54,000 at BC Place. And you see that he's turned into an absolute dog, I think, when it comes to what we're seeing when it comes to Sebastian Berhalter and his growth curve.
He has, and everyone deals with adversity a little bit different. Everyone deals with big moments a little different. And just because you don't have that big energy or show doesn't mean you don't have the passion. But every team needs someone that you can look at and go, yeah, you're right. We're about to do this. And when you look at him, I just think of inspiration because he is that energy. And everyone everyone displays it a bit differently. So I think that's a critical piece for them. And like you mentioned, missing Blackman, I thought was going to be a big deal for them. I still think it's great that they have him back, but they were able to figure that out, and it shows the depth of their squad.
No doubt about it. And Jesper Sorensen, next week, I'm going to have Thursday. I'm going to have all of our MLS compatriots, as many of them that can crash. We're going to have the Hours of Chaos with our friends from Apple TV talking MLS Cup. I'm going to have them open up their MLS High Yearbook for 2025. I'm going to wait for next week for you to open up your MLS High Yearbook to talk about miscongeniality, most likely to succeed, the ones that get caught out back smoking, the ones that need detention, that kind of a thing.
That'll be that list. I'm going to put some thought into this.
Yeah, so all of those awards that were given in the high school yearbook, that's going to be next week, and you can make up your own. I don't care. I mean, it's just like literally whatever award you want to get. You know, who was the one that went into the library and had the librarian sign the yearbook? Thank you for bringing your books back on time. You're a great student at insert high school here. You know, the librarian signs it. That's what I'm looking for next week from you, but we'll save it until after MLS Cup where you're concerned. Eastern Conference. Lionel Messi does not take a shot on goal, but he has like 19,000 assists in the postseason, and there it's just how crazy good it is. But 2 points. I think that anybody that has badmouthed Javier Mascherano needs to write an apology note and mail it to Fort Lauderdale because of how he has navigated this season and navigated everything going on this roster.
100%. I completely agree with that, with what Mascherano's done. He's adapted throughout the year. They've become more balanced defensively. They've made changes to the lineups. He's had player management decisions he's had to make, and he's done what he can do. He's gotten his team to the MLS Cup final with the help of the players, of course, but it is not easy to manage stars. And I think that can be underrated sometimes of how do you do that? That's why everyone talks about national team coaches being a little bit different than pro coaches at times, because you have this massive collection of stars on one team in a national team environment. Well, Miami is that way. Inter Miami has all those stars, and Mascherano coming from the national team environment, yes, it was under 20s. Yes, it was a younger age, not the senior team. But I think he's developed a skill set not only from that, but also from leading teams as a player, that he's shown that player management side. And it's incredibly scary, shifting gears a little bit, for Inter Miami to see that Messi doesn't get a shot and they still win and win big. If I'm Vancouver, I'm not wanting to see that. And yes, you can throw everything out the window in a final sometimes because it's one day. But being more balanced defensively, more goal scorers, and then they still have Lionel Messi. That's a tough combination.
And you sat one of your friends, literally, Mascherano and Luis Suarez, your buds, and it's like, I think we're better if you sit. I mean, that's one of those decisions where, we're looking at it a couple of different ways. We looked at it as you did what you had to do, because this way you got younger and faster. And I think if you go back to Game 3 of the Nashville series, I think that's when everything kind of flipped, where Suarez sits, you've got Silvetti and Allende up there in the attack. Messi drops back a little bit, and you get younger, faster, you're pressing, and you press Nashville out of the building. Then you go into the next round. You press that team out of the building. And so you're creating issues for everybody. Now they're having to think about, okay, well, what happens with these guys here in the lineup? What happens now with Messi? Now that there are more things in your brain that you've got to account for now with just one switch, and it's putting one of your veterans on the bench.
Well, doing that is incredibly hard because, like you mentioned, it will be highlighted if it goes wrong. Mm-hmm. And he had to make those decisions. And then you have to have the buy-in. It doesn't mean Luis Suarez has to like it, and we know the competitor he is. I'm sure he doesn't. But you don't want anyone like that to cause a scene and to distract from the team. So far, so good. With dropping Messi deeper, it's like any false nine. You tempt that center back to step out of their back line. But now it's Lionel Messi. So you have to step out at times. Well, you don't, but it feels like you do, because if you don't and you don't communicate that to the holding mid, then Messi's running at your back line with capable forwards, young forwards running at you. And so what we've seen is that combination has worked because there's so much respect around Lionel Messi that everyone's drawn to him. And now you've got this pace in behind. Don't count Luis Suarez out, though. I think he's the type of player that if he does come into the MLS Cup final, he's going to have a bit of a chip on his shoulder as well. So credit to him if he can come in and be able to contribute if it's a tight game, and to Mascherano for almost cultivating that grind and that, okay, I've got a little bit of a chip on my shoulder, and I'm also Luis Suarez, who can score goals, could be a difference in the MLS Cup final.
Yeah, and you've also got the last match for Jordi Alba and Sergi Busquets. To your point about drawing the center back forward, goal number 3 for Allende when he got the hat trick last time out. We played it yesterday, but I want to play it just to remind everybody about what the point you brought up. And this is blind because you didn't know we had this stuff. Your point that you bring up happened in goal number 3. So here's how it was broken down. Jake and Taylor on Apple TV Plus and the Eastern Conference Final.
Right foot, wasn't it?
I'm not responsible.
Absolutely, I wouldn't touch that. Oh,
Allende, is it 5? A hat trick for Allende! This team, what a night for Inter Miami. In the playoffs, that ties the MLS record.
I ruffled some feathers this week because I said with Silvetti and Allende playing off Messi as a false 9, I'd argue Miami's unplayable. Any argument? You're so worried about Messi as a false 9 and playing through him, Silvetti and Allende will run circles around you because there's quality all over the field that Mascherano knows right now is the magic formula.
Now, I do have an issue. I will challenge him with Vancouver's backline, but you could tell the moment in the highlight when you hear Taylor and Jake go, uh-oh, that was the through ball that you're talking about, where the center back comes forward and tries to bait Messi into a decision, which traditionally doesn't go very well. And that goes between the two. It goes between the two center backs, and literally it is Allende off and running for goal number 5. What you said was fruition in goal number 5 for Inter Miami.
And the temptation to step out is real because Messi facing forward is even more scary at times with no pressure. So he has Rodrigo de Paul and Busquets underneath him. So that gives the green light to Allende, to Silvetti, to when Messi gets the ball, take off. And when you pull a center back out like that and then you disjoint your line, all it takes is for Messi to find the 1v1 matchup, because there's a 1v2 matchup with one of them. You still have 3 backs in the back line, but there's a 1v1 matchup, and a player running forward with pace is usually going to beat the defender if the timing is right on the pass. And so it's incredibly efficient attacking right now from Inter Miami.
And that back line, so where the point was made by Taylor about, any argument, yeah, I'll argue with you because of the back line and the discipline that we've seen in the 4-2-3-1, whatever you want to call it, from Vancouver. That back line that we've seen, you get Blackman back as a part of this discussion. It's Johnson, Priso, Laborda, and Ocampo. Ocampo playing out of position for the 2 games because of the Blackman absence. Now you have that, and then in front of them, it's Kubas and Berhalter. I'll take those 6 going up against the high power of Inter Miami because of the discipline that we've seen from them all season long to get to this point.
It's also about the approach that Vancouver takes. If they're sitting 2 like they normally do in front of the back 4, that does really eliminate some space in there. Now, we know Messi will operate a little bit wide if he needs to get on the ball. He'll do a lot of things to pull players out of position. But when you get to a final, what's the approach? Is it that they're going to try to minimize, or are they going to try to go forward? So are they going to be a little bit less or more conservative, against a team like Miami? But you're in a final. So I'll just be interested to see if they really worry about that space the entirety of the game and try to limit it in transition and keep players back and let the attack do their thing, or if it is more fluid, because Vancouver has proven they can score a lot of goals. So that's one thing I'll be interested to see, is the first 20-25 minutes of this game and how Vancouver approaches it.
And you mentioned Vancouver, the attack of the return of Brian White. So the early reports of the demise of Brian White have been shortly exaggerated. Ali Ahmed, Thomas Mueller, Sabi, Brian White, and once again, Berhalter coming into the part of the attack. I think, and this is something that we've seen in the Eastern Conference all season long, And it is the back line of Inter Miami. They have been prone to fouling. They have been prone to cards. They have been prone to getting run around. And I think that possibly with the speed and the passing that you see with Vancouver, that's the part of this that I'm intrigued, because you know that Jordi Alba, he's going to go forward. So that means you take the dial on the old radio receiver, and you sit there and you turn it a knob. You turn the volume one position. Everybody rotates once. That means that Noah Allen rolls over, Falcone rolls over, Busquets comes back, and then, whatever it looks like at right back is Cello Weigand, who at times is a walking yellow card. Falcone, Maxi Falcone has a great head of lettuce, but sometimes he's very, very desperate and ends up with a card here and there. So I think Miami's backline can be had, especially if Alba gets caught going forward and that space is there down the attacking right-hand side that he gets, and that open space. You have to take advantage of the open space when the aggressiveness for Inter Miami takes hold.
100%. And that's something from a scouting perspective that they'll know through and through of these are transition moments that we can potentially take advantage of, and we need to frustrate the back line of Inter Miami. And that's why I don't necessarily think that they're going to be, I don't want to say overly worried about Messi. Of course they are, right? But I do think that Vancouver would do themselves a disservice if they didn't try to frustrate Inter Miami's back line and the defensive unit. So if they sit back with too much respect in the game, I think it's to their detriment.
What kind of game are you expecting? I think it's going to go longer than 90 minutes.
I knew you were going to ask that. I'm very interested in watching this because it's been so many goals that I feel like it's either going to be more of the same or it's going to be 0-0 and they just can't figure it out and they go to extra time. I doubt that. I think there's going to be goals in this game. But you just wonder if it's going to dry up at some point or if it's just they're going to mute each other in that regards. But I do think in Miami, it's going to be an exciting game, a lot of action. But yeah, I could see extra time. I'm not 100% sure on that. But I don't know on this one who I think is going to win. I really don't. After watching Vancouver, I covered mostly the East Coast. Yeah. After watching a lot of Vancouver this playoffs, they have what it takes to score goals, and you need that against Miami because normally they're going to get a goal or two.
Yeah, and so we will keep an eye on it. Last night on Soccer Over There, we did picks of the week, and I said it was going to go longer than 90 minutes. That I was sure of. How many goals we were going to get, I don't know, because you know how cagey Vancouver can be, especially on the road, going up against a hot crowd in Fort Lauderdale at the Erector Set. I cannot wait until Saturday afternoon to see how this plays out with a team that knows what they want to do in Vancouver. They've done it all season long. They can frustrate the ever-loving ish out of you. And I think that when you can do that, you push some buttons for some folks for Inter Miami, then I think that it might, for Messi and friends, be an interesting afternoon. I don't know how long an afternoon, but I think it'll be an interesting afternoon.
Agreed.
Okay, let's get into college and NCAA. And so this will be where you get to take a 2-minute break because we're going to play the tail end of the PKs in Hofstra and Furman, which was by far one of the wackiest games of the past weekend. We'll break it all down when it comes to bracketology and everything coming up in a second. So what we're going to do as a public service, courtesy of our friends at the NCAA, here's the tail end of the PKs. We'll go into what happened leading into the PKs on the flip side of this. You'll hear a familiar voice. The first voice you're going to hear is our Maddie Cruz, who is paired with Faxon Childress. Late PKs, courtesy of our friends at the NCAA.
You mentioned the Pogba effect right there immediately. Just trying to throw the keeper off guard, not knowing where he's going to go, making him second guess, and then he just slots it home.
Absolutely clinical from Wilfer. And it's 4-3 Paladins and a must-make shot. Who else would you want up in this moment, though, if you're Hofstra, other than Laurie Goddard, the only reason you've even made it to this stage? Goddard with a heroic brace in a 1 minute and 8 second sequence in regulation. And now tries to keep Hofstra's season alive one more time from the spot. The CAA Player of the Year in the biggest moment of his season is money. Pure from Goddard once again. And it's 4-4. But he knows there's not much to celebrate, as a save or a miss is needed to extend the season for Hofstra. It all comes down to one kick at Stone Stadium in Greenville. Take another look.
Brilliant from the CAA Player of the Year. Just a confident PK. He goes up to him. You can hear it. You can hear him say, "Save it," especially to Bowen as he's about to step up on the line.
Everything is on the line in this moment. And it's the senior midfielder from Lewis Center, Ohio, Landon Hill, who's provided so many moments off the bench for this squad this season. Can Hill send them to the Elite Eight? He can! He can! He's pure from the spot, and Doug Allison's unbelievable season continues. The Furman Paladins.
There you go. That's the rundown of after the 6th goal in that one, courtesy of our friends at the NCAA. So for those that might have missed it, here's what went down. And I actually had to go back and look at this. So you have goal in the 17th minute by Hofstra, 1-0. 1-1 at the break. You score 36 seconds before intermission, so it's 1-1. Then you have 4 goals in a 5-minute period. 4 goals in a 5-minute period. 76-03, 79-52, 80-11, 81-19. So that 76-03, that's an outlier. That made it 2-1 Furman. So then you have 3 goals in what? That's a minute and 27 seconds? 3 goals in like 90 seconds to get us to 3-3 and a natural brace by Lori Goddard within a minute 8 of itself. So that game was insane. Am I wrong?
You are not wrong. I was just relaxing, like at my home, like hanging out. And I'm like, you know what? I think there's some games on today. I should put a game on. And I go to the ESPN app and I see 3-3. And I'm like, how did I miss all of this action? And then I go over to the game, watch the rest of it. Obviously, the penalties were very exciting, especially for the neutral fan and Furman. Yep. But I noticed how those goals were scored because they kept recapping it. And I was so sad that I missed this. But I have to say this. I'm listening to the game. I'm watching overtime, second overtime. And I'm like, this woman is really good. I was listening to the broadcast and I'm thinking, this analyst is doing a great job. And then I hear the play-by-play go, Madison. And I'm like, I know who that is. And so I let the game finish. I sent her a message on Instagram. And I'm like, was that you? Because it never said her last name. And I didn't hear at the end. And she said yes. And I was like, you were excellent. It was just so fun to listen to her call that game. And she said it was a great time. But I have to give her a shout out. I know, obviously, she's super connected here. And I just thought she called it a really good game. And it's not easy to do in those moments, especially going into penalties. That's an interesting type of call. And she did a great job.
Yeah, so background, Maddie was our first ever intern. And she has turned it from being an intern with us to being with us and doing all of those other things, being one of those wandering minstrels, you know, that does NAIA and NCAA. And she kind of got locked into the Furman Regional after the SoCon Championship. So, yeah, she has done some tremendous work. But, yeah, she was crushing it up there and got to see absolute chaos. Yeah, I think it took her like a day and a half to come down from that.
I don't doubt it. I know that feeling. I know that feeling for sure.
3-3 in PKs and the home side wins. It's a great story because you have a coach who's hanging it up after this season. His story continues, and now they're going to play Portland, and that is going to be I need a calendar. Friday at 10 Eastern in Portland, the 16 and the 8. And then you've got Akron, who has survived. Akron beat Duke, and I know the Carolina in you is sitting there going, ha, 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 ha. And yeah.
I'm inside.
That's like I was waiting for something. So Duke loses to Akron, the 14. Duke had made it through unseeded, knocking off Fairleigh Dickinson, knocking off number 3 Princeton, then losing to Akron. Akron takes on unseeded and unranked St. Louis, who beat Bryant in PKs. And that's how that's going to be in the upper half of the bracket. Then on the lower half of the bracket, Washington knocks off number 12 Stanford. So it's Washington at Maryland. And I guess they had to leave like later today to get there by Saturday at 1:00 I think this is an ACC matchup now. Washington and Maryland. I had to think about it for a second. So Saturday at 1:00, Washington and Maryland, then Georgetown and NC State, the 7 and the 15. And that's your final 2, 4, 6. That's your final 8 in the NCAA on the men's side. How nuts is it to have a bunch of 10 and belows as the survivors as most of this 8?
You said exactly what I was about to say. The highest seed is a 4 with unranked teams, with a 16th seed, with a 15th seed. I don't know because I haven't followed it year after year after year for the last 20 years since I've been out of college, but I don't remember this many unranked teams or lower seeded teams being this far. There's always someone. There's always 1 or 2. But to not have a seed above 4 is pretty incredible. And it's fun for us to be able to watch that. And you just never know what's going to happen. And that makes it exciting this time of year.
Yep. On the women's side, Florida State as your 3 continues to work their way through. They knocked off Ohio State 4-1. Stanford as the 1 beat Michigan State as a 2, 5-1. Stanford putting 5 goals on the board this late in a tournament. That to me is always something you got to kind of sit there and raise the eyebrow at a little bit. Then it's TCU over Vandy in overtime, a 2 beats a 1. Then Duke is a 2 beat Washington 3-0. So you're looking at Florida State and TCU in one semifinal, and then the other semifinal, Stanford and Duke. So you got your blue bloods on one side and the youngins on the other side. A 3, 2 2s, and a 1 in your Final Four on the women's side.
And this is why I say Stanford has the ability to win this entire thing is the goal scoring that you mentioned. We talked about it with Inter Miami from an MLS Cup perspective, just the ability to score goals. Stanford at the collegiate level has so many goal scorers, and it's incredibly unpredictable. And it's not like they just run through people in a 1v1. They're scoring from corner kicks. They're scoring from set pieces. They're scoring from headers. They're scoring from run of play, shots from distance, combination play. Like anything you can think about, they can figure out and produce on a soccer field. And if anyone is going to stop them, though, I do believe it's Duke. I think that semifinal matchup on Friday is going to be one to watch. Duke absolutely played Washington off the field. I just watched the game last night, and Washington barely had the ball. And Duke did the same thing in the ACC semifinal as well with Notre Dame, but they gave up a goal on a counterattack, and then they took them really late, just weren't able to see it out. But they dominate in possession. So which is going to give with Stanford Duke, I have no idea, but I think that matchup is going to be the one to watch.
So Stanford, just for edification purposes, beat Cal Poly 3-1. Beat Alabama on a game that you might see on a muddy, grassy field on a college football Saturday. 7-3. That to me, it's like, excuse me, what? 6-0 over BYU, 5-1 over Michigan State. They're slipping. They're scoring less and less goals each time. So if you have a team like Stanford, all right, let me put your coaching cap on for a second.
Do it.
Coaching cap is on. You've got a team in Stanford that has scored 21 goals in 4 games in a postseason tournament.
Mm.
If you're staring at these numbers, I guess, first and foremost, don't stare at those numbers. How do you defend and create opportunity for yourself? I'm not going to say as the team. I'll say it as a team playing against Stanford, because I can't mention that 4-letter word to you specifically.
I gave them their due. I said if anyone can beat them, I gave them their due.
Okay, so if you are a team squaring off against Stanford that is as lethal as they are offensively, how do you defend well and create opportunities for yourself? Obviously, having to be clinical at the other end because you may not be getting a whole lot of chances. How do you defend against something like that?
I think depending on their opponent, which of the 3 they play, whether they get to the final or not, it's going to depend that answer. Duke, if I'm Kieran Hall, I am staying with my game plan. I think Duke is good enough to keep the ball and to make Stanford defend. I don't think they need to sit in, but it is going to be about moments of the game. If Stanford enjoys some possession for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, then they have to find a defensive block that makes a lot of sense. Duke loves to press and loves to be higher up the field, but there are going to be times that Stanford's possession is going to push them into their defensive third, and they are going to have to keep their distances really tight. And their marking in the box is going to have to be great with positioning, all those little details and those fine margins that separate teams at the highest level. But if I'm Duke, I am completely trying to outpossess Stanford. I'm trying to create my overloads just like I've done all year. If I'm Florida State or even TCU, I do think Florida State can press even higher than a lot of teams because of their athletic ability that they have up top and turn teams over. And TCU hasn't seen Stanford this year. And so I think if they end up playing them in the final, if Stanford does advance past Duke, they're going to have a mix of both. I wouldn't be surprised to see them sit in a little bit more against a team like Stanford.
All right. I know that your weekend gets kind of busy, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It does. I am going to be the halftime, or not the halftime, the filler show between the two semifinal games. Mike Watts and I will be at the desk on the field in Kansas City, and we'll be discussing the first game and what happened with Florida State TCU. And then we'll be interviewing the winning coach, previewing the next game, doing that show for ESPNU on Friday night.
All right. So who's upstairs? Is Jen upstairs?
Jen and Lori are calling the games. And then
Okay.
Marion Crowder will be on the sideline. She'll be the reporter. And then Mike and I will do the show in between. So we've got a great crew. I'm really excited.
Well, yeah, Marion is one of our also. She's been an OG with us before. So Marion's been with us. Jen, as you know, Jen and I have known each other for a real long time. So I guess this means next week we got to figure out when we can drag Jen in to have the two of you on to break everything down that happened this upcoming weekend. Yeah.
Exactly. I go straight from there to the World Sevens event in Fort Lauderdale to commentate that with Jessica Charman.
Nice.
Saturday, Sunday, and then I'll be in New York next Tuesday. So I will be calling in from a hotel, but we will try to coordinate that. But yes, it'll be a really action-packed weekend. I'd love to be on with Jen at some point. It'd be nice to recap everything for sure.
Yeah. So it's the Wonder Twins are doing the sevens, huh?
We are.
Well,
A lot of people are there, but we are paired up together for the World Sevens.
All right, so break that down. Well, for those that might have it's like, I heard about this. What is this World Sevens that's going on?
So it's a 77 tournament with women's professional teams coming in. And so there's 8 teams coming in. You play in a 77 environment, 30-minute games, half a soccer field. So it's smaller, but still a good space. There has to be a winner. So overtime goes to 5v5, and there's a 5-minute overtime and then penalty kicks. So it's a different type of format, nice and fun, exciting, and should be a really good time.
And not 5 degrees like it might be in Kansas.
I'm going from Kansas City, that could be like snowing and 25, 30 degrees being on the field, to Fort Lauderdale, which is going to be like 80 degrees, and then to New York. New York is just the trip that I planned, but I'm going cold, warm, cold. So it should be interesting.
All right. So make sure that you stop at the store on the way out of town or when you get into Kansas City to get those, the Hot Pockets, the hand warmers, the big ones that can fit under your arch inside your shoes.
Oh, I'm definitely doing that.
And maybe electric socks or something like that. And then you have to sit. I think you're going to have to pack one suitcase for Kansas City and then one suitcase for and New York, and then the other suitcase for South Florida, and how this is all going to work out.
I'll report in because I have a charge to myself to try to only take my carry-on suitcase. I don't think it's going to happen with the shoe choices.
No.
But I'm going to do everything I can. So I will report in if that happened next week. I don't know if it will.
All I'm saying is that we're going to look on your Insta and it's going to be like massive 50-pound suitcase. And then, the carry-on that's going to have like everything else that's attached to it.
I know.
Safe travels. Obviously, when you run into Jen, remind her that next Tuesday, it's mandatory that she come on with you at a prearranged time. So literally, knock on her, it's like knock on the side of her head. Yo, we're doing the show on Tuesday. So whatever works.
I can do that. I see her on Wednesday night, Thursday morning. So I'll make sure she is in the know.
Yes, she is in the know, and we'll catch up with you and Jen just to have great calls. Be safe, stay warm, and then don't stay warm. And then we'll see you from New York next week.
Sounds good. Have a good week.
There goes KCD. So that's the busy life of KCD here in the off season, which really means there is no off season. We know this for a fact. Steve DeCou is going to join us in about 10 minutes. We'll break down everything from the NAIA perspective. The analysis that KCD dropped in when it came to defending Messi and friends, we're probably going to put that on repeat. I will chop that up and we'll put that on social, and we'll talk about the other stuff in college on social as well. So that's what we get when we bring KCD and Kacey White. It's always great to catch up with her, even if we don't mention the 4-letter word for her in the ACC when it comes to teams playing Stanford. So Final Four, College Cup, you heard the crew. It's Jen Hildreth, Lori Lindsay upstairs. It's going to be Mike Watts, KCD downstairs, Marion Crowder on the sidelines. And so it's going to be a cast of thousands on the U this weekend. So let's see. Of those 5 individuals, 3 of them are attached to us here at SDH. Marion Crowder from her time covering college soccer and USL League One. And then Jen, who I've known for a year or two, and then Kacey D. So next week, looking forward to Kacey D grabbing Jen Hildreth by the scruff of the neck and going, hello, author. We need to discuss things, which reminds me, I have her book and I have my book, and I need to send them to her so she can have them as a part of her library. Okay, it's always great to catch up with Kacey D and find out what's going on there, and get kind of crack her brain open when it comes to defending. And I feel like this is a book, Defending Messi and Friends. That's like a manuscript, Defending Messi and Friends. All right, so let's say hi to everybody this morning and break everything down. I don't know what was in the mug, but so I'm guessing it was coffee on one side and water on the other. So she had literally in her Merry Christmas mug, she had the coffee, and then she had the dihydrogen oxide in the other. So good morning, Alex. Morning, Dell. And yes, and Dell, we can't wait for the draw either on Friday. And you got tickets for the Atlanta matches. I hope that it didn't set you back like the cost of a couple of months worth of insurance and car payments. Morning, David. Morning, Pars. Yeah, so we'll find out what's going on. Yep, and it's Tuesday, therefore it is KCD. Above hardness, yeah, they got reported. So that's the deal. And so yes, that bot got reported. Yeah, glad to see Berhalter playing well, assuming MLS players won't make big moves overseas before the World Cup. Yes. Oh, okay. So World Cup starting 11 training for Jordan this morning. Good morning, Jordan. Thanks for dropping by last night, being a part of SOT and being a part of things this morning here on SDH. So whatever's on your mind as we go here this morning, once again, we're going to get into the NAIA coming up in a bit with Steve DeCou, and we'll go through the goals that got him the win in the 8-9 yesterday. It was a bit of a rough afternoon and evening for Life University. We'll go over the scores there as well. Life's men losing in PKs, and Life's women's team with Meg McGonigal, they lost in a shootout with John Brown. So we'll go over the scores, but we'll come up. Steve DeCou joining us. You win, you work your way forward. That's how this goes. And I think that I fully respect coaches that believe in ritual. I'm not going to say superstition because I'm more ritualistic. I'm not superstitious. So you win, you keep coming on. So I completely and totally respect that when it comes to what you are when it comes to being in a postseason tournament. So Steve DeCou, head coach of Georgia Gwinnett, coming up in just a little bit. So let's get into what happened with Georgia Gwinnett yesterday, leading into Steve's appearance. And so yesterday, it was in Orange Beach, and we'll get into this with Steve in a sec. But the weather couldn't quite make up its mind what it wanted to do. And it was, since you were on a turf surface, it helped out at least a little bit where you weren't having to deal with puddles and such, but it made for interesting offense and tactical elements and things like that. So it was a 1-0 lead for Cumberland of Tennessee, and they end up with Mikhail Gelabert getting a goal in the 33rd minute. And so with a minute to go in the first half, and Derek, I'm right there with you. I'm not superstitious, just a little stitious. Absolutely true. With about a minute to go in the first half, you had this moment off of a throw-in, and it eventually turns into the equalizer here, courtesy of the NAI and the Urban Edge Network. Here's the goal call, provided I had volume.
Followed up, and it scored! Following it up is number 26, who may have been a number change that I have not gotten.
Gabriel Martins, by the way, got the goal.
Ball went to the back post. Zelaya couldn't get rid of it. It's Gabriel Martins, the sophomore from Brazil.
And so Gabriel Martins gets the goal to tie it at 1 toward the end of the first half. And it stayed that way for most of the second half. But then you get a moment where there's a great set piece. And when Coach DeCou comes in, I want to discuss the art of the set piece a little bit. But you're talking probably from about 35 yards out. Great service on the set piece, and it ends up with from Michael Malibran to Josefa Simao in the 82nd minute, your eventual game winner. Once again, courtesy of the NAIA and Urban Edge Network.
Michael Malibran stands over it. The freshman from Newcastle. Will he go towards goal or try and float something in? A lot of options from this location. Eric Zelaya sets his two-man wall. Curled back post, brought down and scored! Josefa Simu. Perfectly placed. Josefa Simu brings it down, takes a touch, brings it to the right foot, and slots it home. And the Grizzlies take a 2-1 lead. What a ball by Michael Malibran. And Coleman for Nicole is Josefa Simu.
Now, so they end up getting the win in the round of 16, 2-1. They advance and have a couple days off before the round of 8 matchup. And so they're going to take on Grandview of Iowa. They have the early game on Thursday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, I imagine it's going to be fairly normal. Like I said, we'll get into recovery day, practice day, looking at tape. We'll get into all of that stuff in a tournament format down there at Orange Beach, and we'll find out what it's like for Georgia Gwinnett in this situation. Now 14-2-4, obviously outshot 10-7, but when you're outshot and you get more into the back of the net, that still means you win. So 2-1 win for Georgia Gwinnett. Goals by Martins and by Simao. Simau's game winner, eventual game winner in the 82nd minute. So once again, catching up with them and coming up in a sec, we'll find out. It will find out if Coach Deku actually slept late, like he did last time. Last time he was on the show, he slept late, came in, you get the win. So I guess maybe you sleep late this morning, same thing happens. So hopefully that's what they're looking for as we go. And so wasting no time. See, we play the highlights, we do the setup, and he's right here. He's right there waiting for us. And so we catch up. We go down to Orange Beach and various suburbs and areas, and we catch up with Steve Deku, the head coach at Georgia Gwinnett. I told him, I said, look, you win. Coaches are very superstitious or they're ritualistic. You win. You keep doing everything that's going. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong, but I don't think that our conversation had anything to do with the result yesterday. But if this helps us keep advancing, I'll keep on doing it. Great performance by the guys yesterday. So just happy to be back and still playing.
No doubt about it. Let's break it down. Take it 45 minutes at a time. The goal on the board by Cumberland's 33rd minute or so. What were your thoughts of the first quarter when you got to the quarter pole and into the 30s? How did you think you were playing?
Yeah, the first quarter pole, it was the feeling out process. It was that, cup football. It was tournament time. It was both teams trying to figure out what they could do. And yesterday was a transitional moment, and that's where we weren't good. That's where they got in behind us. The number 4 scoring team in the country, they had 2 shots on frame. Unfortunately, their first one went in. But from about 30 to 44, we were, dare I say, hanging in there. It was we were up against it, and then we turn them over. Ball played to the back post. Substitute wingback comes in and just tucks it away to make it 1-1 at the 44th minute. So to go in halftime 1-0 completely change the complexity of the game. If we're going in 1-0 down, we're chasing the game. There's the nerves, everything you're dealing with that. But when you score and take the momentum away from them, now you've punched them in the nose, and we had the momentum going into halftime, and then felt that we had a better performance in the second half, executed more like we wanted to coming out of halftime.
So what did you tell them at the half? Obviously coming off of that equalizer at 44, under a minute to go in the first half. What was the conversation in the locker room?
Part of it was just some of our rotations defensively weren't good enough, and so we had to fix that. Some of it was, the nerves are done. Play. We had some bad giveaways in some places that led to their attacks, and so just follow the game plan, get the ball to where it needed to go, and just keep it simple. Sometimes human nature is, I'm going to try to do it myself. I'm going to try to make the play. It was more of just keep it simple, keep the ball moving, make them chase. And when we did that, we were a lot more successful.
And then you get to the 82nd minute and the set piece from Malibran, and it was about as perfectly placed as you could get, looking far post, edge of the 6, and it looked like it was right where it was supposed to be and right how both you and he drew it up.
That's exactly how I drew it up, and I'll take full credit for that. No, but Mike he hit that was a perfect ball. And then if you look at it, we had a couple guys. The ball gets played across, and we had 2, 3 guys at the back post unmarked. So if Josefa doesn't get it, somebody else in black was going to get it on that day. But little interesting fact for those Atlanta United fans: Michael Malibran from the same hometown as the last number 2 from Newcastle that we had at GGC that people might remember, won Jack Gurr. And so that was a Jack Gurrish free kick that just got whipped in, perfectly located, squared across the box. Let's go, baby.
And you did that. You get the other 8 minutes in the barn. You get the win. So then what are you doing today? Is today rest and recovery and tape, getting ready for Thursday morning? What are you doing today?
Yeah. So if you can kind of hear in the background, I'm sitting on the balcony over listening to the ocean. I've already got up, went for a walk, had breakfast. As soon as we're done with this, the assistants are coming in. We'll finish watching film, putting together the game plan. Then it's a training, a recovery session at about noon. Let the guys just kind of hang out. We've kept them away from the beach a bit. It's like, hey, we're here on business, but today, just kind of go walk the beach, enjoy it, just breathe, relax, sleep, do whatever you need to. And then, good dinner tonight. Then tomorrow, another training session and preparation. But you got the other half of the bracket plays today. So probably the coaches will want to sneak over because we're gluttons for playing. It's fun to just sit in the stands and watch somebody else have to go through the rigors of the game because this is a small community. Coaching, we all know each other, and so got a lot of friends who are down here, and just to see them play. And so not supposed to rain today. We didn't get out to any games yesterday because after our game the skies opened up, and well, even if it does, I'll watch it from inside here. But so just to be able to be a part of this event is something special.
What's it like cramming for a test? Because I think that being in a tournament is the coaching equivalent to cramming for a test, because you've got to prepare for everybody. Then half of your information goes away, considering that only one team advances. I guess get into the art of cramming for a test. What's it like in a tournament format trying to prepare on the fly?
Yeah, we don't do as much advanced scouting and have, dossiers on multiple teams. It's okay. So now we know we're going to play Grandview. So last night we watched their game against Bethel from yesterday morning. We're going to go back and watch their opening round game and then their conference tournament game. So we'll start to cram for that. Maybe that's a reason that's how I got through college, was through cramming. So it's just second nature. Please don't let the professors or the administration hear. That's what I advocate. But with smaller staffs like we have, we can't do as much advanced scouting, and so we have ideas on teams. We've recorded games all year. We have ideas on how teams play. But now it's also this time of year. I mean, we're fairly healthy, and that's a rarity at the college level for this. So we might have seen a team play a month and a half ago, but they might be missing 2 or 3 guys to injuries. And that's what we've noticed in this tournament. Some key pieces are not there in other teams. And so how does that affect the way that they play, the way that they set up what they do? And so used to it, man. So it's just, it's a good problem. Guys, just understand the plan and we're going to, the last night's game and the other snippets that I've been able to observe, they're very similar to our last 2 games. So the game plan's not going to change much. What I do like is I don't really see anything crazy, outside backs tucking into the midfield or different rotations that we're going to have to deal with. I mean, yesterday they had some great wingers that really tried to isolate us. And I just hopefully don't have to see that on Thursday, but we got some more film to watch and we'll figure that out.
Yeah, so Grandview doesn't have Jordi Alba wandering in like he normally does or anything like that, huh?
Exactly, but Cumberland had Lamine Yamal out on the flank that he torched us a couple times, but we were able to deal with it and keep him out wide. But hey, it's this time of year, everybody's got great players, so just deal on.
Okay, show me the water before you get out of here. Go ahead and you can go ahead and stand up. Go ahead and show me. I want to see what it looks like. Hey, it's
go.
blue. Sweet. I had to get the peek in. Thanks again for crashing. Obviously, we had to talk to you after the win, and thanks for the quick turn, and thanks for putting up with us. Good luck in a couple days. Enjoy the easier day here, getting ready for things. Just take it easy. Enjoy your time. We'll catch up with you soon, my friend. Thanks for dropping by on the flip.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
There we go. Steve DeCue, head coach at Georgia Gwinnett. Cameo for him. Literally, I just needed him for a couple minutes because we got the highlights in, talked about the match. He talked about how Grandview took care of Bethel, and so that's where we are. All right, we're in hour number 2, and thanks for dropping by as you always do here. Let's go over the rest of the brackets. When it comes to the men's side, the NAIA, once again, you've got the right-hand side of the bracket going today. And so right-hand side's going today, and then you'll be down to your final 8. And then on Thursday, you'll have your 8. And then from there, you'll get into the weekend, so on and so on. And they tell 2 friends, etc. So what happened yesterday? Grandview, as you heard from Coach DeCoe, Grandview knocks off number 1 Bethel. Grandview in unranked. They beat number 16 Indiana Wesleyan. They knock off number 1 Bethel. They're going to take on Georgia Gwinnett. The morning game on Thursday, 11 Eastern, and you can catch that on the NAIA platforms, probably Urban Edge Network and all of that. So 11 a.m. Thursday, Eastern time, it'll be Grandview and Georgia Gwinnett. The other game, 2 o'clock Eastern time, Warner Pacific knocks off the number 13 seed LSU Shreveport. So the Pirates go home. Warner Pacific stays. Cumberland's beats Life University in the 5-12 in PKs. So Life University comes home on the men's side. Great season for Coach Alex Palma. And so the 5 goes away. So the left-hand side of the bracket, 2 unseeded teams, your 9 and your 12. Grandview, Georgia Gwinnett, Warner Pacific, and Cumberland's of Kentucky. That's the left-hand side of the bracket. That's the 4 that have made it to the quarterfinals. Today, going on right now, Oklahoma Wesleyan and William Penn. Oh, actually, no, in an hour. So lineups are probably out. But Oklahoma Wesleyan, your number 2, and William Penn. That's going to be at 11 o'clock Eastern. 2 o'clock Eastern, John Brown and Mid-America Nazarene. Once again, 2 of those 4 not seeded. Oklahoma Wesleyan's your 2, Mid-America Nazarene's your 7. 5 o'clock Eastern, Bethel of Indiana, the 3, and Indiana Tech. 8 o'clock Eastern, WVU Tech out of West Virginia, your 11, and Ottawa, Kansas. So you have 4 seeded and 4 unseeded teams that have made it out of the second round on the right-hand side of the bracket. So what you've got left are the 2, the 3, the 7, the 11. Some of those could go away today. Those that have advanced, your 9 and your 12. So seeding doesn't really matter. So the next time we have Steve on, we'll discuss this. And regardless, probably after the finals. The finals, by the way, are on Monday at 3 Eastern. So we might be able to swing something there either Monday or Tuesday if Georgia Gwinnett has made it all the way through. But right now, quarterfinals, you have 2 seeded, 2 unseeded teams on the left-hand side of the bracket, and your quarterfinals will wait through those at 11, 2, 5, and 8 today in the NAIA on the men's side. On the women's side, we'll break down what happened there. Yesterday, it was Golden Eagles defeating Running Eagles, and it was John Brown 4-1 over Life. The Golden Eagles improving to 15-2-4, and Meg McGonigal's Running Eagles finish up at 18-3-1. So it was a bit of a shootout last night. John Brown's going to have a couple days rest before they take on Cumberland's of Kentucky in the quarters. So looking at the championship bracket on the women's side, yesterday, once again, left-hand side of the bracket was what was active. Marion of Indiana in Pensacola, number 1 knocks off number 16. So the number 1 team seeded advances Marion over Taylor. Oklahoma Wesleyan, the seeded team, knocks off Mid-America Nazarene. So it's 1-8, 11 o'clock on December the 4th, left-hand side of the bracket in your quarterfinals. 4-13, Cumberland's Kentucky with the upset of College of Idaho in seeding. So the 13 beats the 4. They advance. They're going to take on John Brown once again, the 5 who knocked off Life, the 12. So it's 1-8, 13-5 instead of 1-8, 4-5. So 4 seeded teams, 1 upset. That's the left-hand side. On the right-hand side today in the round of 16, Your early game is going to go on top of the hour. Truett McConnell and Grace, your 7-10. Truett McConnell right now, the number 10 seeded team, taking on number 7, Grace of Indiana. That's at 11 o'clock. 2 o'clock, William Carey, the 2, taking on Embry-Riddle, the 15. At 5, it is the 3 and the 14, Indiana Wesleyan and Kaiser of Florida. And then Lindsey Wilson, unseeded, at 8 o'clock, taking on Missouri Valley, the 6. So you have one unseeded team on the right-hand side in the round of 16 in those 8 teams that are playing today. And you have seeded teams that have made it all the way through on the women's side, the 1, the 8, the 13, and the 5. So that's where we are. Quarterfinals on the 4th, semifinals on the 6th, the finals at 1 Eastern time on Monday afternoon in Pensacola, Florida. So we'll keep an eye on that as everything compresses as the week goes along. So that's your rundown of everything in the NAIA. Now, let's get you into what happened last night involving the women's national team. Last go-round for them this year, and we have some goals and some sound that we'll get into here in just a sec. But you look at what went down last night with the women's national team, and for them, I think it was match day 30, if I'm not mistaken. So it was a 2-0 win over Italy, and it is the end of the 2025 campaign for the women's national team. So 30th for Emma Hayes as head coach, 2-0 win over women's Euro semifinalist Italy. First half goals, Kat Macario and Jaden Shaw. Since the press release has decided to let us know that it was Kat Macario and Jaden Shaw that scored, why don't we go ahead and play those goals for you? Courtesy of our friends at US Soccer and TNT, Kat Macario used a bit of imagination early on for the first goal on the board.
One ball played forward here from the back by Salvai. Guglielmo couldn't get there. Johannes will pick it up. Number 13 for Lily Johannes. Forward it goes towards Kat Macario. Macario goes to chip the keeper. It's sublime from Kat Macario.
Oh my! Emma's reaction says it all. First, the ball to get Kat Macario in, and then
you end up with, Luke Wildman, Julie Fowley on the call. 1-0 at that point. 5 changes to the starting 11 from the first match back on the 28th. More veteran group compared to many matches this year. Lindsay Heaps got the captain's armband, got her 170th cap. It was her and Lily Johannes, and one of 3 teenagers, along with 19-year-olds Claire Hutton and Jordan Bugg, who started the match. Defender Kate Wiesner earned her first start for the WNT, debuted on Friday in the 3-0 win over Italy, coming into camp from the playoffs where she was a part of Washington Spirit. Dickey featured in the starting 11 for the fourth. Claudia Dickey started for the 4th consecutive match and got back-to-back shutouts now, New Zealand and Italy. You end up with Macario scoring in the 20th minute, and that made it 1-0. So then the Macario total is now 8 on the year, tops on the team, 16 goals and 29 caps. And she has now scored in 3 consecutive matches for the WNT. Obviously, Lily Johannes gets credit for the assist, the second of her international career. Both assists, by the way, have led to Macario goals. That takes us to the 41st minute. And the 1-0 lead turns into 2-0 on this moment from Jaden Shaw.
Oh, the space wide to the left side here for Jaden Shaw. Found beautifully by Alyssa Thompson. Jaden Shaw cutting inside. Jaden Shaw! Oh, yes! A fabulous finish from Jaden Shaw! Inside the final 5 minutes of the half, 2 great goals here for the US against Italy.
the beauty of this setup, we'll take it all the way from the back. Alyssa Thompson cutting in, bouncing it off Macario, gets it back. And then this nicely played ball into Shaw. You can see the Italian defense trying to set. They can't, and she just needs a fraction of a window. Jaden Shaw in the past may have passed that to one of the splashing runners, but instead she says, no way, I'm taking it myself. And that is the confidence of what this player is now bringing, not just to the national team. We saw it with Gotham FC, contributing on 3 of their 4 goals to help them win that title. And what a nice little cut that is, opens it up. Durante has no chance of it, and that is a beauty for Jaden Shaw.
No doubt about it. Beauty for Jaden Shaw. 2-0 final. Could have been more. They hit the crossbar in both halves, so it could have been a larger margin. So it concludes the 25 season. Team returns to action for January training camp in Southern California, January 17th through the 24th. 2 international matches, January 24 against Paraguay, in Carson at Dignity Health Sports Park, and on the 27th against an opponent and a venue that will be announced soon at halftime. And this was a cool moment. USWNT women's national team, longtime captain Kate Ward, honored with the Social Impact Award. And we've had conversations with Kate leading into the Deaf Olympics. You'll remember the conversation we had with her, considering that she's hanging up her boots internationally after that competition where they end up getting their 5th gold medal. The Social Impact Award recognizes athletes for off-the-field contributions, as worded in the award, that harness the transformative power of soccer to positively impact lives and communities. Key member of the Deaf women's national team that has not lost a game in the team's 20 years. Think about that. They haven't lost a game in 20 years. Won 3 DIFA World Deaf Football Championships, 12, 16, and 23, 4 Deaf Olympics, 05, 09, 13, and 22. Ward has served as soccer forward ambassador and a full-time college soccer coach. So very cool that Kate Ward was recognized after at halftime of the match last night. So once again, 2-0 win. It was goals by Macario from Johannes in the 20th, Shaw from Alyssa Thompson in the 41st. And Kate Wiesner is the 50th different player to start a match under Emma Hayes in her 30 matches as USWNT head coach. In 2025 alone, Hayes has given 43 different players caps. No other full-time manager named more than 36 in their first 30 in charge. Shaw's first goal of the year, 9th of her career, 31st cap. And we mentioned that Lindsay Heaps in her 170th, tying former captain Carla Overbeck for 20th in all-time appearances. Avery Patterson and Emma Sears got their first action in the window. Jalen Howell got her first cap since April 9th of 2022 against Uzbekistan, where she scored her lone WNT goal, 7 caps in the overall. And every player on the roster who played in the NWSL Championship saw minutes in the camp. The only players on the 26-player roster not to see action were the 2 backup keepers, Mandy McGlynn, Jordan Silkowitz, and defender Izzy Rodriguez. In front of an announced crowd of 94-71, 77 degrees, and it was a 2-0 final. Your starting lineup: Dickey, Fox, Bug, Gierma, Wiesner, Hutton, Heaps, Johannes, Shaw, Macario, and Alyssa Thompson. Subs used Avery Patterson, Kennedy Wesley, Lily Real, Jalen Howell, Croy Bethune, and Emma Sears in that matchup. The stats on the night: 16 shots to 6 for the U.S., 7 on target to 1, 5 saves, 4 of them to Italy, 3 corners, 2 to the United States, 26 fouls called on the night, 16 for the United States, 4 offsides, 3 to the U.S., and only 1 card on the night to Elizabeta Oliviero at 90+3. Priscilla Perez was in the middle, Mailing Chavarria, Heidi Kaal, and your 4th was Ximena Marquez on the night. So that's the rundown of the match that ends the national team workouts in 2025, 12-0-3 on the season. And so after the match, in the mixed zone, folks got to catch up with the first goal scorer on the night, Kat Macario, once again courtesy of our friends at U.S. Soccer in Baritone.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. I think we had a lot of ups and downs this year. So I'm just really proud of this team for being able to battle through everything. A couple losses, a couple ties, which of course is difficult, but at the same time I feel like it helps us grow. And so, yeah, I do think that we had a lot of positives this year, a lot of improvements. And so, yeah, to finish out with a win is just cherry on top.
Your goal was beautiful. Can you walk us through the play?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that was just an outstanding ball from my great friend, Lily Johannes. And then, yeah, I think afterwards I just saw that the keeper was a little bit off her line. And so I think, you know, to chipper was one of the only options. So, yeah, I think I just tried to think quickly. And, yeah, thankfully I pulled it off.
Most certainly did that off the chips. So that made it 1-0 on their way to a 2-0 win. Luke Wildman, Julie Foudy on the call last night on TNT, BR Sports. and the U.S. soccer. So that brings us to everything else going on today. And we've got all the news to get into. We've got what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, all the things. But, and I say but, let's start with our friend John Texter, shall we? And there was an interview that was done recently with John Texter, and it was brought into discussion in the Times. Matt Lawton, and Matt is one of those folks that you really don't want to have as a, as one of those folks that you want to have a byline with. I'm just saying. You really don't want a byline with him. But then when you get a byline, it's usually going to be something pretty journalistic. Headline from the Times and Matt Lawton. John Texter, Evangelinas Marinakis link allowed our clubs to adjust, in quotation marks, transfer fees. They made deals. The former Crystal Palace shareholder and Botafogo owner made deals for 9 players with his partner, in quotation marks, in the subhead, Marinakis, who owns Nottingham Forest. Article. John Texter has suggested that his special relationship with the Nottingham Forest owner, Evangelinas Marinakis, has enabled him to adjust transfer fees to the benefit of their clubs. And this is what I was getting into this morning when I was saying that Texter seems to be saying a bit of the quiet part out loud now. I mean, it's not necessarily a surprise that you have folks that do wink, wink, nudge, nudge. How'd you do? Hey, I'll work with you. You work with me. We'll kick it down the road. We'll work together some more. I mean, it happens all the time. Not a surprise. But what Evangelinas Marinakis has always wanted was a link to South American football for his MCO, whether it's Greek football or whether it's Forest or wherever. He's always liked those links to South American talent. So John Texter, who they have a working relationship, and I guess they're partners, and I guess they're friends to a certain extent, that they've been working together for quite some time. And you might sit there and look at transfer fees and sit there and maybe raise an eyebrow or two. It's like, well, why is that? Well, they've got each other's backs, understanding the rules of the road, and they're driving in tandem, it seems, at points. So Texter has the franchise in South America, has the links to South American talent. Evangelinas Marinakis has always liked South American talent because it can be acquired, fairly economically in comparison to other marketplaces. If you know where to look, you can get very, very talented players in South America at a rate that is not going to completely and totally explode your wallet. So Marinakis in Europe pairs up with Texter, who's in South America with one of his properties. And so, hey, I like this guy. Okay, well, I like, how about this much? And so you have those kinds of relationships. Texter has the players through his acquisitions and through his scouting system and his portfolio that have made it up to his knowledge base or even on his clubs in South America. Texter does the work in the South American part of it, helps out his friend Evangelinas Marinakis. Marinakis comes in with a price. John Texter nods his head. Okay, we'll make that transaction happen. So Texter has suggested that his special relationship with Marinakis, Lawton continues, has enabled him to adjust transfer fees to the benefit of their clubs. And by that, you're not going to run afoul of any of the rules of the road when it comes to what used to be PSR, keeping an eye on your bottom line, those kinds of things. I mean, you have it in business all the time. The American businessman, whose Eagle Football Holdings company continues to control Botafogo in Brazil and Lyon in France after selling its stake in Crystal Palace, describes the Greek billionaire who also owns Olympiacos in Greece and Rio Ave in Portugal as a partner in football business. In 3 years, there have been 9 transfer deals between clubs owned by Texter and Marinakis. Their dealings were reportedly highlighted by lawyers acting for Crystal Palace in their submission to the Court of Arbitration for Sport in July when appealing against UEFA's decision to demote them from the Europa League to promote Forest in their place. Now you know the rub of the story. Texter, Stakes and Palace and Lyon at the time breached UEFA's rules on clubs with the same ownership taking part in the same competition. Examples given by Lawton. Moussa Niakate was the third-choice center back at Forest. Struggled with form and injury, yet he moved to Lyon in July of 24 for a club record fee of €34 million, nearly £30 million. That would have helped the Premier League club comply with strict spending rules. Since then, Forest have bought 4 players from Botafogo, striker Igor Jesus in a deal worth £16.5 million, the goalkeeper John Victor, left back Koulibaly, and defender Jair Cunha. Texter was asked by a Botafogo fan's YouTube channel why he had sold the club's players for, quote, not a great sum of money, end quote. Texter's reply, quote, the relationship is, though we do not own Nottingham Forest and Marinakis does not own any piece of Eagle football, he has really become the partner that we wanted to have with Crystal Palace. It's important, I believe, to have a strong Brazilian club, to have a strong European club, to have a strong United Kingdom club. I would like a partner in Portugal. Pause. So you have a partner in Portugal because Marinakis owns Rio Ave, and I'm going to look up the wins and loss records here. Hang on just a second of where things currently stand. And when our buddy Nino Torres comes in and discusses things in and around Portugal, we can also bring it up with him the next time. So Rio Ave, by the way, their next match is this weekend. It is Saturday against AFS, and they are a slight favorite on the road. Standings, Rio Ave in the Liga Portugal. Right now, Rio Ave, mid-table, they're 11th. But they're in a fight for literally, after match day 12, they're 11th. They're 13 points behind on goal difference, but literally you're 1 point and you match in goal difference, but you're 1 point out of the top half of the table. So, okay. So Rio Ave's, doing their thing. So, Texter. It's important, I believe, to have a strong Brazilian club, and he does in Botafogo. They'll have a strong European club, Lyon. Let's find out where Lyon is right now in France. France. I need that drop so bad. Okay, so right now in Ligue 1, Lyon, their next matchup is on the road at Lorient on Sunday afternoon, and they are a favorite on the road. Right now, Lyon is 6th. They're in the Europa Conference League place. 24 points, same as Rennes. Rennes has more goals scored, and that's why they are in the Europa League spot. So Lyon is in the Conference League right now. They're only a point out of dropping out of that. So they're safe, but because of goals scored, they're 6th and not 5th. But they're also a win out of 4th. So Lens, PSG, Marseille, 31, 30, 29. Then you have group number 2. Lille, Rennes, Lyon, 26 in both of them at 24. Rennes has won 4 in a row, by the way. Monaco's at 23 points, snapped a 3-game losing streak. Strasbourg's at 22. That gets you to 8. And then everybody else is in below 20 points. So that's where Lyon is right now. Article continues. Quote, I might even prefer a partner in Spain more than a partner in France. But Marinakis has effectively become that partner because he has clubs in Portugal, clubs in Greece, and a club in the UK. And he, more than any other owner I've met in the world of football, believes in Brazilian talent. That's my first explanation. The second part of the question is you have to understand that you do your best to allocate the transfer price on an athlete-by-athlete basis, and that is also true. But you also understand that if you have a large relationship and you've been trading players in Brazil and elsewhere because he's sending players to us in France, we sent some younger players to him in Portugal, right? So basically there's the quid pro quo and the handshake part of the deal. But like I said, it should not be necessarily a surprise that you have owners cutting deals with one another. But the news peg in this story has to do with Crystal Palace and Nottingham Forest and players going back and forth and European football and the involvement therein. So that's where the news peg is in this particular story. And the public wonder if one club sending players help the other do better and, advance further in the European. So that's the kind of theories that are out there. Texter challenged the idea, article continues, that these players were sold at a reduced price, saying that in certain cases the value was affected by an individual's injury history. And that also could be true. Quote, you feel really stupid when suddenly Igor Jesus is the best player against Liverpool, and you're sure you should have gotten paid more money for him. But the fact is, his injury history was the greatest reason we didn't get paid more for him. Reflecting on the 3-0 win of Forest at Anfield last month. And also that Liverpool really isn't all that good right now. Quote, a lot of those numbers will bounce around. Sometimes you'll look stupid. Sometimes they'll make sense. And sometimes it's part of making an adjustment because you trade with that particular friend in a lot of situations. So yes, you go in and you look at whatever metrics you use to determine who's got what and who's worth what and who's where. And then you figure out, okay, is it worth this relationship for me to charge X if if we've been kicking cans down the road together and swapping out folks that we think are going to help us in one part of our MCO or the other? Is it worth the greater picture to pay market value for somebody when we're having this great relationship and whatever? And I think that the larger point would be looking at, all things being equal, how far away from market value were the transactions? And then were they just wink, wink, nudge, nudge? It's like, yeah, okay, I'll pay you less than for one down the road that pays less or whatever. And we also don't know the financials in play. Could John Textor even afford to pay a certain amount of money for a certain player that was a part of a transaction that could have been from Rio Ave or Nottingham Forest or somewhere in the Marinakis MCO? Could John Textor have afforded a player from the Marinakis MCO and gone instead and said, well, tell you what, I've got a guy and I'll move him to you if you knock off a price and knock it down a little bit. So it's all into the whole trading element. But what we don't know in all of this is the economics of Eagle Football Holdings and how navigable they were in all these processes. But the notion that folks are, trading and cutting deals and all this kind of stuff, that should be par for the course. That should be an understood. But the Lawton news peg about the involvement between Palace and Forest and both of them making European competition, and then the MCOs battling it out with Crystal Palace and Lyon and all of that. So Crystal Palace, Lyon, Eagle Football, and then involving Nottingham Forest, who is a team that has been traded to or has been sold to and bought from as a part of all of this navigating. So that's the economics at play here that Lawton is breaking into. So you're making a deal with friends. Not a shock. But at the time of the deal, I would wonder, inbound for Eagle, how much of it is just doing a guy solid and how much of it is because you can't necessarily afford a player, and so you cut a deal someplace else so you can get that player in because you can't afford to pay bills, like $30 million that you owe Atlanta United. There's my dig for the morning. Forest had been approached for comment by the time. Source close to the club said they were perplexed by Textor's comments because they believe all 4 transfers from Botafogo were agreed at a fair price for both parties. So, as John Textor talked out of turn, it's like, yeah, we cut deals for our friends. And then Evangelinas Marinakis is sitting there going, bruh, you got to keep that under your hat. FIFA and the Premier League have also been approached for comment. No suggestion any of this activity amounts to a breach of transfer regulations, and that's what we were getting into. There are rules that demand transfers between associated parties, meaning clubs under the same ownership, are conducted at fair market value, while the Premier League assesses all transfers valued at more than £1 million. Textor insisted such conversations between owners over transfer deals are, quote, quite normal, end quote. To Lawton, Textor says, a team owner can say, give me a break on this new one. I overpaid for the last one based on performance. And that is true. Quote, every deal's a negotiation, and if you desire to continue trading with a particular owner, you sometimes agree to another owner's perception of value, sometimes forfeiting your own perception of value. These negotiations swing both ways. That may also be true. But the notion that Textor cut deals and Forrest comes out publicly and says, no, they were all fair market. Put a bookmark in that. Texter then complained there was an awkward translation issue during the interview with the YouTube channel. Texter was speaking in English, but he said, quote, "I was talking about how you adjust the negotiation about transfer prices. Of course, that's permitted, and it's not at all unusual. I had the same conversations with owners of other big clubs. It's how people barter." Texter added, "If you adjust the negotiation of a transfer fee, it's not the same thing as adjusting a transfer fee." That's true. If you adjust the negotiation of a transfer fee like you want to carry it over 10 separate payments, that is different than saying that the fee itself is going to be, 17 million and another 3 million. So two separate deals, 3 million and then another 17, or 17 plus 2 if metrics are met. So the idea of a transfer fee between 20 and 22 million, yeah, I mean, that's fine. But then dividing up how you're going to pay that 20 to 22 million, yes, that is a separate issue. And I know a team in particular that probably would like to have the issue that has been created by the negotiation of a transfer fee and how it was going to be paid out, but it hasn't been paid out. I'm sure that would probably be a conversation that one team would like to have with him. Adjusting a transfer fee, that happens. Adjusting the negotiation of a transfer fee, no, it is not the same. But you still kind of have to pay the transfer fee, whether you negotiate it or adjust it. Negotiated, yes, that did happen with one team in particular. It's not the same as adjusting a transfer fee. No, 10 separate payouts would have been nice. And no, I have no idea as to where things currently stand with the negotiations of that fee plus interest, where FIFA has basically said, bruh, you got to pay it. But with John Texter, when you continue to kick the can down the road and you do so in a legal way, you hold everything up. It has been adjudicated by FIFA that he owes 17 million plus 3% interest, and then 20 million plus 3% interest, and the sell-on fee for Thiago Almada to Atletico de Madrid, plus interest that comes out to about 30 million bucks. I'd love to know where that is. But I would imagine that once again, since it is still being adjudicated, you don't have to budge on it, and you're just going to kick the legal can down the road until you can't kick the legal can down the road anymore. Continues. Article, Lawton. Asked how any fan of one club might feel if the price of a player has been affected by a deal between two other clubs. Texter replied, "My money, right?" But you're ignoring the rest of the conversation about that same answer. And what I object to is saying there's some sinister relationship between me and Marinakis because people are going after him. And like we said, it happens all the time with owners and their relationships. What if I have a strategy, Texter continues, where I'm creating a regular pathway from Brazil into the Premier League? You can watch a Premier League game between Leeds and Nottingham Forest and see Botafogo players on both sides of the pitch, and that's never happened before. Once again, creating a path and having business interests, and depending on who you talk to, either Texter or Nottingham Forest, it's either just a wink, wink, nudge, nudge negotiation, bit of a back and forth, or all the prices were negotiated in good faith. The players who were transferred between clubs owned by Texter and Marinakis: John Victor, one of two keepers signed, Botafogo to Forest. Igor Jesus, first move off the back of his first goal for Brazil last year. Jair Cunha, 6'6" defender, key player for Botafogo. Cuibano, left back, loaned back to Brazil until January. Matt Turner. Now remember, Matt Turner was a part of this too. Matt Turner, Lyon paid $6.9 million for the American, loaned him to MLS the following day because Lyon got saddled. Lyon, after Texter was told to divest, and he divested, the paperwork for Matt Turner was just kind of around. It's like in a drawer someplace. Oh, we have Matt Turner. Can we renege on this deal? No? Oh, well, then he loan him out. So John Texter does a deal. He goes out the door. Paperwork's just kind of laying around the office. Discovered by the new folks. Hey, can we ditch this deal? No? Damn. So John Texter saddles Lyon with Matt Turner, and he gets loaned out to the Revs. Danilo went from Forest to Botafogo, third most expensive signing in Brazil's Serie A history on his return to his home country. Moussa Niakate, Forest to Lyon back in 24-25. Lyon broke their transfer record for the center half. Orel Mangala, originally signed midfielder on loan before making the move permanent last summer, now on loan to Everton. And Tiquinho Suarez from Olympiacos to Botafogo back in 22-23. Spent a season at Olympiacos before making 120 appearances for Botafogo over 3 years, 44 goals. So that's the rundown of the Textor Marinakis transfer plan. It's not quite the Marshall plan, but it is the Textor plan and the Marinakis plan. But yeah, the John Textor, look, there is nothing wrong with owners of MCOs going back and forth. And Jason Stevens will join us in a couple of weeks. Just all I'm going to say is this: just keep your warmest thoughts and love for his family. He's going through something with his family right now, so we're going to let him focus on family for a little bit. But MCOs, look, they deal with each other. It's like, hey, it's like when you were trading football cards and baseball cards as a kid. There was a neighbor that I had, and if he wanted one card to close out his set, I had a 1975 Cliff Branch, and he wanted that card to close out his set. Okay, so how badly do you want the Cliff Branch? He's like, okay, how about 45 cards you choose? That kind of a deal I'm not going to turn down for Cliff Branch. So it's happened all the time. When we traded baseball cards, it's happened all the time. There were another couple of cards that I had that would close out sets for the same dealer that I had, the buddy that I had down the street. And I would orchestrate a 30 for one, a 35 for one, a 45 for one for Cliff Branch. That was just how it was. If you're that desperate for a player, you're going to navigate the price. And if you're desperate for different reasons, you're going to navigate the price. And you're going to sit there and say, okay, hey, look, tell you what. How about I take a couple of those commons off take a couple of those common cards off your hands. I'll take the 1977 Ken Clay. I know you've got like 6 of them. If I take 3 of those Ken Clays, then if you need the Reggie Jackson, we can swing a deal there. If I take 3 of these Ken Clays, can I get more cards in return? So that happens. It happens when we're kids. It happens when we're adults. It's just that you go from baseball cards to 9-figure and 8-figure and 7-figure transfer fees. It happens all the time. But the look after the idea of the navigation of Nottingham Forest and the Marinakis MCO and Eagle when Crystal Palace was a part of it, and all of this back and forth. I mean, it can be regarded as coincidence. Fine. It's just a part of it. It just so happens that we were doing great and they were doing great. And we all did great together, and we still trade together. Did those deals impact either club that got them better or got one worse or got them both? If it got them both better, then the reality is it really shouldn't matter. But you're staring at the idea of MCOs trying to trade players and be successful. And then when you're both successful, you're going to sit there and people are going to sit there and raise eyebrows. I get it. That's fine. But trading happens all the time. Cut rates happen all the time. Odd deals happen all the time. But you have to do it within frameworks, and it can't be too odd. But the idea looking at the relationship between Eagle and Marinakis is what you were staring at here if you were Matt Lawton. And that was part of the case that Cass made, that Palace made to Cass about the discussions. Well, they sent those players to Forest, and but the idea of further down, as we were looking at the article from Lawton, where it was, it's the same, it's different. So how did he phrase it? Hang on just a second. If you adjust the negotiation of a transfer fee, that's not the same thing as adjusting a transfer fee. True. You adjust the negotiation instead of doing it over once, and it's a lump sum payment. You do it 10 times out, even money, each and every time, and then a certain amount up front. Of course, folks would like to be paid for those kind of transfer fees. I'm just saying. So Wiley, in this morning, is a part of the discussion over my trading cards. However, your Cliff Branch card didn't get a cut of the fee. Don't most players? I think the agent may, Wiley. The other 40 plus, the other 40 plus cards that were a part of the deal, they did not get a cut of that particular fee. I think if anybody, you've got the agent fee, and then if the agent decides they want to do anything with their fee, then it goes to the player or what have you. So if anybody gets it, it's the agent, I would think, that gets that fee that we're talking about. So the agent is looking to drive up. So what you may be doing, and Wiley, you may have a point, morning, Abby, is that if you are trying to keep fees within line, you're trying to make sure that agents don't get astronomical fees for their players and their player transfers. Which brings another question in here. Has Thiago Almada's agent or agency been paid in any of all of this? From the point of moving from Atlanta United down to South America, I wonder what Thiago Almada's agent thinks about all these transactions. I'm just saying. Thank you for bringing that up, Wiley. Reminding us about the agents part of it too. So yeah, I wonder if in this deal, Thiago Almada's agent got paid and got their commission, or if that's hanging in the balance, or if an agent is much like a business partner, understanding that it's out there and yeah, you'll get it sooner or later. Just don't raise a stink now, because you never know when you're going to be dealing with these guys down the road, unless you just don't want to deal with them anymore, which I could definitely understand where John Textor is concerned. So, and the point that I made last night is, and why do people continue to deal with John Textor? And it's because of his other business interests, not his soccer interests. That's why they hang out with him. I mean, we don't like how you do this, but we do need you for this. Yeah, and I guess the players get to negotiate signing bonus and salary. Yes. So signing bonus and salary, so they get paid. That would be negotiated, and I imagine that comes out of day-to-day expenses. The budget that you have set, your signing bonus, that's like, hey, you've made it here, and you have the photo with you're looking into the camera and the pen's not on the paper. For that photo, you get your salary figured out. That's self-contained within the budget of the franchise. That's a separate column to me than it would be, fee, negotiation, agent, all that kind of stuff. So salary and signing bonus here. That's this photo. That's this. Agent, separate column, and fee with club, third column. So hopefully where Thiago Almada and his agent are concerned, columns 1 and 2 have been taken care of, where column 3 is still in dispute to the tune of about $30 million. So there's that. Okay, let's see. What else is going on in the world? So, yeah, that was somewhat required reading today. Yet another 15 minutes on John Textor and how he continues to be who he is. So, let's see. I'm trying to see if there's anything else that was news-wise. Now, we mentioned the double standard of the red after the Moises Caicedo red card, accusing officials of double standards, Enzo Maresca. You've got that. Fans of each team get at least 10,000 tickets per group game at the Euro 2028, 40% of tickets in a cheaper price bracket, and no dynamic pricing. UEFA, and that's kind of a rub to FIFA, UEFA declares the commitment to fair, transparent, and fan-first ticketing process. So each team's going to get at least 10,000 tickets for the group stage matches in 2028. So that's very cool. That is going to be very, very cool if that does come to play. Lucas Paquetá blames a lack of psychological support from the FA for the red card. And Paquetá, that was what I asked Bart as we were kind of fading in his segment about the double yellow, like bang, bang. The West Ham midfielder, according to Allison Rudd, says his behavior has roots in the 2-year spot fixing investigation. Lucas Paquetá has blamed a lack of psychological support from the FA for talking his way into a red card against Liverpool. Cleared of spot fixing this summer after a 2-year FA investigation shown 2 yellows in 2 minutes, both for dissent. Second booking preceded by an animated argument with Darren England, the ref, and Paquetá sarcastically applauded him after he was shown the red card. Sky Sports posted on social media that this represented, quote, ridiculous behavior To which Paketa retorted that such behavior could have its roots in the lack of support given to him by English football and their governing body during its case against him. Paketa wrote on the 280-character app, quote, "It's ridiculous to have your life and career affected for 2 years without any psychological support from the Federation. Perhaps this ridiculous behavior is just a reflection of everything I've had to endure, and it seems have to continue enduring. I'm sorry if I'm not perfect." Before that message, he posted, quote, "I understand that now I have to come across as the villain. It's hard to live with everything that was caused in my life and in my psyche. I'll keep trying to ensure they don't affect me even more. This doesn't justify my expulsion, and that's why I apologize to the fans and my teammates." First charged with spot fixing relating to allegations he deliberately sought yellow cards in 2023. Irony. Always denied the charges, eventually cleared in July. A proposed £80 million transfer to Manchester City derailed once the investigation began in August of 23. He said this month, probably would have signed for City the week I received the letter from the FA. Professionally speaking, I lost that transfer, a leap in my career. Psychologically, I think that's where I was most affected by the fear of this indecision, the uncertainty of my future, despite knowing who I am and what I do and what I've done. But due to the circumstances of the investigations and the way the Federation handled everything, it generated fear. It was difficult for me. I had psychological support to deal with all of this, with some of the problems, but understanding the reason for everything, that it was God's work, being able to share a little of my encounter with him, being a testimony of faith and resilience. That's what I take away from it. That was my victory. I'm happy that fear is behind me. What they said would be 3 months lasted 2 years. And I was able to prove my innocence, win this case, and be able to do what I love normally. Out of contract in 27, has expressed his desire to leave West Ham in January, although his options are unclear. If I had the chance to leave West Ham, considering all that we've seen from West Ham, I probably would too. Claimed the Brazilian side Flamengo tried to sign him twice while the FA investigation was active. Although the allegations of betting against Paketa were not proven, he was sanctioned for 2 proven breaches of failing to comply. Nuno said he would talk to his player privately before discussing Sunday's red card publicly. West Ham went on to lose the match 2-0. The FA has been approached for comment. So that is the rundown of Paketa. And Paketa, Catalucci, Paketa did not do himself any favors with that second yellow. I mean, when you go bang, bang, when you get that first one and it sets you off, that's a bit of an issue. And so there you go. Yes. And Catalucci, definitely, I'm sure the FA was pissed they couldn't nab Lucas on the big charges. Absolutely true. You're definitely not wrong there. But yeah, you don't do yourself any favors when you go bang, bang. If you get the first one, you need to have teammates kind of drag you to the side and sit there and go, excuse me, sir, you kind of need to not talk for a minute. So don't talk for a minute, man. Just kind of chill for a sec. Just chill for a second. That's all we're looking for. Hang on just a second. What is it? There it is. Sorry, I need to hydrate here. So yeah, you don't do yourself any favors. After you get that first yellow, stop talking. Go the other way. Stop talking. Don't talk anymore. And then what happens? You get hit up. You get hit that second one. Oh, Sheffield Wednesday. Yeah, we got to get into this. Sheffield Wednesday, and this kind of looks like you're kicking somebody when they're down, but the FA really can't, they can't sit there and say when something is investigated, when it starts and when it stops. But yeah, we got to get into Sheffield Wednesday here for a second. Players, staff, and the tax man not paid in March, May, and June. And now they're at the bottom of the championship on 10 points. It's another 6-point deduction. And that was yesterday. Sanctions in regard to the club's failure to pay 3 times this year, as well as in relation to other non-payments to staff and to the taxman. 12-point deduction in October. Placed administration by former owner Defon Chansiri, who's been banned from being an owner or director of an EFL club for a period of 3 years. Should have been sooner, and it should have been for a lot longer. If there is any case for a show cause, if there's any case for a show cause of not being an owner, Defon Chansiri is it. If there was ever like the NCAA version of show cause by the FA, he should have it. Multiple breaches of EFL regulations relating to payment obligations, prohibited from being an owner for a period of 3 years. Big whoop. While matters remain ongoing in respect to the issues being considered by the Independent Club Financial Reporting Unit, for alleged breaches in the 25-26 season prior to the club entering administration. The league can confirm it's not seeking any further points deductions from the club. Separately, EFL and Sheffield Wednesday remain in discussions regarding the appeal against the fee restriction, currently set to run until the end of the winter 27 window, likely to be resolved as part of the club's exit from administration. They've won once all year, and that was back in late September. Lost their last 4, including the loss to Sheffield United at Hillsborough last month. And for the person that thought that United should buy Wednesday and you should merge the two clubs, that's like taking Alabama and Auburn, if you were Bear Bryant's son, the head of the Board of Trustees for the University of Alabama system, and you thought it would be a good idea just to kind of get rid of the opposition to just go ahead and merge the two schools. You'd probably call it the University of Alabama at Auburn, the UAA. And you'd have to call it that way. You wouldn't be Auburn University anymore, but that's what this smacks of. Pick your favorite rivalry that is blood feud, and one entity says, yeah, we'll go ahead and, basically, and you'd play at Crampton Bowl, or you'd alternate your, what you would do, you play like Crampton Bowl, or actually, you know what? If it was the Alabama Board of Trustees, Catalucci, it would be you'd play everything in Tuscaloosa. And basically, Jordan Hare would cease to exist as a venue for anything involving football. You'd play everything in Tuscaloosa. If you had the Alabama Board of Trustees sit there and want to merge Auburn and Alabama, everything from Auburn would then be under the oversight in Tuscaloosa. That's what this is. And this was one of those ideas where you sat there and you went, what? It was dismissed immediately, but the fact that someone on the the Sheffield United side thought that might be a good idea. I mean, you get rid of your opposition. I get that. So I don't think it would have been something where it's altruistic completely. No, you're getting rid of your opposition. You're assimilating them as a part of your entity. And I'm sure that there were folks on the United side that were sitting there going, but no, that was kind of shot down immediately, as it should have been. Other stuff that came out this morning, and there was a watchdog report. Full disclosure, I have donated in the past to the Hillsborough Family Support Group. There's a watchdog that has come out with a statement. 12 police officers would have faced disciplinary cases of gross misconduct for a catalog for everything that went down at Hillsborough if they were still serving, according to the police watchdog. However, no former officer named by the Independent Office for Police Conduct will face disciplinary proceedings because they've all retired. And you also remember that Peter Wright, who was chief constable at South Yorkshire, passed away. 10 of the men who would have faced gross misconduct cases were in the South Yorkshire Force, including senior officers responsible for safety at Hillsborough. The IOPC listed 6 gross misconduct allegations against Peter Wright, including for seeking to minimize the force's responsibility and deflect the blame onto the victims, the Liverpool Football Club supporters. 2 other men, senior officers in the West Midlands Police, which was appointed to investigate the South Yorkshire Force after the disaster. Mervyn Jones and Michael Foster would have faced allegations that they, quote, failed to investigate effectively and were biased against supporters in favor of South Yorkshire Police, end quote. 366-page report delivered to families in recent days marks the culmination of 14 years' work by the IOPC, and the IOPC describes it as the largest independent investigation into alleged police misconduct and criminality ever carried out in England and Wales. Based in Warrington, began in 2012 after the Hillsborough Independent Panel made their findings on police culpability, which quashed the verdict of accidental death from the first inquest back in 1991. IOPC said in the report it had found 110 complaints upheld or cases to answer against former officers, including falsehood and prevarication, discreditable conduct, abuse of authority, and neglect of duty. Some people whose relatives died at Hillsborough, according to The Guardian, told the paper they welcomed the findings but were outraged the IOPC did not find more cases to answer against South Yorkshire police officers for falsely blaming Liverpool supporters. Family and survivors have long described that as a cover-up by the police and spent decades chasing after the truth and justice that is attached to those investigations. They would assume they would find. IOPCs explain their view that in the absence of a duty of candor to positively assist an investigation in 1989, the South Yorkshire Force and its officers were not breaking the law or conduct rules by, quote, presenting their best case about the causes of the disaster, even though it involved withholding crucial information and amending hundreds of officer statements. So the IOPC, happy but not really happy. The investigation from the IOPC, once again, you're talking 14 years of an investigation of what went down in April of 1989. So that came out this morning with the misconduct, the IOPC investigation that was attached, according to our friends at The Guardian. Now let's take the tour. Let me see what else is going on here. Let me see. Did I miss anything? Is this new? Is this legitimately new? Okay. Will Castle, who we're efforting to grab from The Independent to talk about a couple of things. Yakubu, here's the headline. Yakubu says voodoo claims brought shame to Nigeria after the World Cup failure. Nigeria were beaten in the CAF playoff on penalties before Nigeria legend slamming Eric Schell. So Nigeria coach Eric Schell, remember, blamed voodoo for the failure in the World Cup. And he said it in French and then he said it in English. Asked once about it and then asked twice. He said the same thing. DR Congo wins the playoff final on penalties, and Chancel Mbemba converted the spot kick, and we played that for you that day. So after Mbemba's penalty, Schell confronted the opposing team's coaching staff on the touchline, later justifying the reaction with a claim the players of Congo did some voodoo. Yakubu made 252 appearances in the Prem. He told Sportscasting at the time. Then Yakubu says such allegations have brought shame upon the country, that Schell said it was voodoo. Yakubu said if it was down to voodoo, I think an African country would have won the World Cup a long time ago, he told Sportscasting. He, meaning Schell, Eric Schell, the Nigeria coach, just needed to congratulate DR Congo and say, well done for winning, rather than bringing shame to Nigeria. He is ashamed of Nigeria, a coach coming out and saying it's because of voodoo. We lost on penalties. He tried to fight someone. They had to pull him back. It's not a good look for him or Nigeria. Our penalties were quite poor. The pressure was too much for the players to deal with. Calvin Bassey and Moses Simon missed their first two penalties. You'll remember that this penalty kick shootout was off the rails. Before Semi Ajayi's kick was saved by Timothy Fayulu in sudden death. Spot kicks. Onyeka's deflected opener was canceled out with an equalizer. DR Congo have only played in the World Cup once, in 1974, when it was called Zaire. As the winners of the CAF playoff final to be held in Rabat, they will be advanced to the Intercontinental playoffs, joining the likes of Bolivia, New Caledonia, and three others. So that's to say that it was voodoo, according to Yakubu, was no good. That was not the way to break it all down. That was not the proper response. And for him to say it was voodoo, according to a Nigerian legend, means that that you were bringing shame upon your country. I don't know if you heard about this, but Aitana Bonmati broke her leg in training. Spain has dealt a huge blow ahead of the Nations League decider. They're going to be without her in the second leg against Germany. And so fell awkwardly during a session on Sunday, fractured fibula, ruled out of the second leg in the home match to Germany as they are trying to chase after another win. So it was a statement that came out following tests carried out by the medical services. November 30, diagnosed with a fracture in her left fibula. Player will return to Barcelona, rejoin her club to begin her recovery. Spain hosts Germany today after the first game finished goalless. And she played 77 minutes in the first leg in Kaiserslautern, but now will not be a part at the Estadio Metropolitano. And she's going to return to Barcelona to continue her rehab. First player ever to win the Women's Ballon d'Or 3 times this season after getting the domestic trouble with Blaugrana, Spain to the Euro, and they ended up losing to the Lionesses there. So Aitana Bonmati is going to be on the shelf probably for about 6 to 8 weeks. And that's speaking from someone who broke a fibula himself. For me, it was 8 weeks in a cast. I'm sure for Aitana Bonmati, it will be a lot less. I'm just saying. What to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, and find out what's going on today before we send it to the rest of your day. Stay warm, stay dry, be safe. Roads are going to be stupid today. Tomorrow, it is Tyler Pilgrim, hopefully Dylan Butler, talking a lot about MLS Cup, with Tyler specifically about Friday and what it means to the city of Atlanta and to the United States to have the World Cup here in our footprint. And we get to find out what the draw is on Friday. We'll talk to Tyler and Dylan about that in Major League Soccer. Our buddy Nico Moreno is going to join us at 10:30 tomorrow, because Thursday is going to be the free-for-all with all of our friends from Apple TV. And they're going to come in, they're going to say their piece, they're going to open up the MLS High Yearbook for 2025, and they're going to break it all down for us on that Thursday. So Thursday is going to be all MLS Cup from our friends at Apple TV. So Wednesday, Nico's going to join us at 10:30. Nino's going to join us Friday at 10:30 to discuss CONMEBOL and their impact in the World Cup, and we'll analyze the clubs and things like that. We'll get into what it's going to look like from a CONMEBOL perspective coming into the World Cup in 26. He'll be a part of our Friday talk as we get ready for everything going on in the World Cup draw on Friday. So what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. CBS Sports Network, Coppa Italia, Juve and Udinese is at 3 o'clock. La Liga on ESPN Deportes, Barcelona and Atleti at 3. Fulham and Manchester City is at 2:30. The press conference yesterday for Pep Guardiola was like 7 questions in 70 seconds. The immediately reduced stuff. There's a later press conference apparently that I didn't know about that is embargoed, and that information comes out later. But the on the record, hey, we're talking Fulham presser and what happened on the weekend, 7 questions, 70 seconds. And then it was done. And he showed up 4 minutes early. Fox Deportes, Peru Primera is at 4. Sporting Cristal and Alianza Lima. You can also watch the Peru Primera on Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. You can get it. You can watch everything going on Fanatis, all of the different networks, all the BNs, Liga 1, Liga 1 Max Pro, TIC, TVV, Tigo Sports, all the South America. You got Argentina, a lot of South American nations, Central American soccer as well. It's there. And you can get that at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. Universo simulcast in Fulham and Manchester City at 2:30. ESPN Plus has the German Cup, 4 matches. Copa del Rey, 4 matches, 3 at 1 o'clock, 1 at 3. And La Liga, once again, Barca and Atletico de Madrid at 2:30. NBCSports.com is simulcasting Fulham Man City. Coppa Italia simulcast on Paramount Plus. Premier League also very, very busy. Bournemouth and Everton at 2:30. Newcastle Tottenham at 3:15. Spain and Germany's 2:30 in UEFA Nations League on CBS Sports Network. FS2 has CONMEBOL Nations League at 4 and 6. 2 to NA has the Venezuela-Peru match at 5:50. Uruguay and Ecuador is at 4 on FS2. Argentina-Bolivia is at 6. CONCACAF W qualifiers, El Salvador and Honduras is at 8:20. And Australia and New Zealand are on a friendly, and that is at 4:30. So since that is happening today with what's going on in England with the midweek, check your rosters for fantasy. You've got the 3 matches today, and you have 6 matches tomorrow, and you have Manchester and West Ham on Thursday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you've got stuff in the midweek. Today in the juice boxes, Bournemouth favored at home at a plus 122, hosting Everton at a plus 233. 90-minute draws about the same. Fulham a plus 382 at Craven Cottage, hosting Manchester City at a minus 145. Newcastle a minus 122, hosting Spurs at a plus 317. Your draw is a plus 277. So that is the rundown of everything today. So tomorrow, once again, MLS Cup, World Cup preps. It's going to be Tyler, Dylan, and Nico Moreno. That's going to be tomorrow. Thursday, wall-to-wall MLS Cup with our friends from Apple TV. Friday, live at Benchwarmers in Decatur, leading into Maddie and Jason at the Brew House most of the day. They'll be there in the morning to set up the draw. They'll be there after the draw to react, and we'll let it go from there. So go to the Brew House. We're anticipating a packed crowd. Benchwarmers, like I said, it'll be like a soft opening. Don't know how open they'll be, but we'll be there, and we'll break it all down because they're going to open at 11:30 for everybody to watch the draw and enjoy your lunch and all that stuff. I'll be there after we sign off at 11, and we'll kind of usher the coverage over to Maddie and Jason, and then we'll let it rock and roll from there. So that'll be the look on your Friday, where we start at Benchwarmers in Decatur. They'll drift in. We're going to catch up with our friends from Decatur Watch Fest. We'll see if either Greg or Michael Parkus is joining us at 9:30 to discuss everything. from a U.S. soccer perspective and what it means. It may not necessarily be a bit of Friday free kick, but we'll talk about U.S. soccer on that Friday. Then at 10 o'clock, it's Jason and Maddie in some form. And then Nino Torres joining us from Gold TV at 10:30 from Lima, Peru. He'll discuss CONMEBOL, and that'll break down the rest of the week. And then you've got everything happening on Friday, Brewhouse, Atlanta Soccer tonight. Then NoFo Brewing in Gainesville as Maddie and Jason head north for trivia and fun. And then Saturday, we find out the schedule for the World Cup. And then you find out MLS Cup at 2:30. So it's going to be a very, very busy Friday, Saturday. We'll be here on the network, and we'll watch it all for you there. All right, so that is another go-around of SDH AM. Did I see Bart's post on X? High-fived. Oh, I did not see this. Yeah, fibula is the one behind. I broke my fibula in high school. It got me out of class for 8 weeks in a cast. But, yeah, the doctor told me at the time, he said, of all the worthless bones in the body, you broke it. The fibula. Yeah, so it's tibia in front of fibula. Fibula is the one in the back. And so, yeah, doctor told me that it was a worthless bone to break, and I broke it. 8 weeks in a cast. I did not see Bart's post on X that he high-fived Brandy Chastain. Yeah, legend, yes. David, legend. Yeah, Bart being a legend, absolutely true. High-fiving Brandy Chastain. So go on Soccer for US POD and see Bart high-fiving Brandy Chastain. I wonder if they did the whole flash jump where they kind of froze it, at the point of the high five, take your picture, flash jump, one of those kind of things. All right, back at it again, 9:05 in the morning, and we'll break everything down. Thanks to Steve DeCou, the head coach at Georgia Gwinnett. Thanks to Kacey D for breaking down and really breaking down. She put her coach hat on this morning, breaking down everything involving Lionel Messi and Messi and friends and what it's like to defend that, what it's like to defend Stanford and Duke. So thanks to Kacey D, thanks to y'all, thanks to Steve DeCou at Georgia Gwinnett. And thanks for all the interaction as always. It's another go-round of SDH AM. Thanks for dropping by as you always do. Mucha platiel. Play it safe. And since it is the end of the show, it means we get to do this. Back at it again in a little less than 22 hours. Play it safe, everybody. Stay dry. We'll see you in the morning.